Welcome everyone to the Only Macfest session where data brings as much drama as Mobland, and online audience measurement is as addictive as Beckham and Friends. I'm from Comscore. We don't make the content, we just track how it trends of the internet, and then we transform it into insight instead of Screen Time Guild. And I'm thrilled to be joined today by Paramount, who are an entertainment icon, who are not just creating shows, they are creating moments of culture. And who better to unpack all of that with today than the man overseeing digital ads for streaming, as well as brand partnerships globally, Amil.
Thank you, Ira. Hi, everybody. It was obviously quite warm yesterday. It was quite cool yet this morning. It's nicely heating up now, which is great. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I work across all of our ad sales across brand studios, across our, particularly across our social media business in particular, predominantly around how we maximise our revenue opportunities. I do that across all markets, including excluding the US. So I have all of the access to all of the data in all the markets, which makes my job incredibly interesting.
Amil, very few companies span the content universe the way that Paramount do, whether it's the thrills coming out of Mobland, or whether it's the off-the-pitch banter with Beckham and Friends, or even some of that magic, those new adventures from Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So, that being said, this is more than just making shows, and the way that I like to put it is a bit like sparking cultural firestorms that light up across screens, from streaming to social and beyond. Tell us a bit more about the content magic that we are seeing on the screen.
Yeah, it's an incredibly exciting time at the moment at Paramount. We are invariably flooded with lots of information. There's lots of data. There's lots of points that we can build an audience from. But from a programming perspective, which is ultimately what we are, we're an entertainment business. We are there to make people engage with what we're producing, be it from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 all the way through to the likes of Mobland. It is such a huge opportunity now of how we understand who our audiences are and how they engage with our content. The beauty of the shift, I suppose, it's less reliant on linear. Linear is still really important, but we are now multi-platform. We gather our information about our audiences from all the social platforms. How do we depict who they are, how they engage with it, and then how do we then target them beyond that? But when you've got iconic shows from the likes of Mobland or the Godfather trilogy or Emily in Paris, which we produced for Netflix, Yellowstone, you've got such a huge plethora of amazing stuff that people want to watch. And it is just beyond how they watch it on a big screen. It's actually the social conversation, the social narrative that helps drive that audience even further and then understand who those audiences are. None of this is revelationary. We're not changing and saying anything that no one doesn't already know about. But what we are able to do is understand through everything that people are watching our shows from across all platforms who they are as best we can.
And how important is it for you to understand where audiences are engaging, and how does that change the way that you sell, that you program, and that you monetize content?
Well, sometimes I wish I was back just selling TV and, selling a bit of airtime. And then you generally go to the pub on a Thursday afternoon and you're sort of done. Our world is, it is, as I sort of mentioned, flooded with information, flooded with data. Everyone is getting this information. How do we then utilise that best? But how do we utilise that in a way that is as easily understandable as possible? And I think that is the biggest challenge that everyone sort of has, is everyone has got a walled garden, and each social platform, as collaborative as they are, will work in isolation. We have the benefit of knowing who those individuals are on an individual basis. So who they are on YouTube will be completely different to who they are on Instagram. And who they are on TikTok will be completely different to what they are on Facebook. And so you tailor your content, your programs accordingly. But the position that we're in now, with such a huge amount of information about who they are, is very difficult to decipher. And that is obviously part of our job. We have to make sure that we know who they are. We then need to communicate that to our clients and advertisers in a way that they will understand as simply as possible.
Understood. And talking about audiences, I like the point that you made about you need to be able to follow the audiences wherever they are going, and then you adapt your strategy around where your audiences go. How do you deal with that in a world where algorithms are changing quicker than the plot twist, right? What we see at Comscore is that audiences consistently show up for the things that they care about, right? And audiences are the one thing that do not lie. We see lots of platforms that change their priorities and what the algorithm is telling, all of this changes. But how do you connect the social buzz with actual audience behavior?
The first thing is everyone loves the old algorithm changing. You can always blame the algorithm for something. It's like, oh, well, the algorithm's changed, so we've not got anybody watching any of our YouTube videos. And in honesty, that does happen, and you are liable, and you're at the mercy of those social platforms of how they will change, how they want to operate, and how they operate may therefore have a positive or negative effect on how you get more engagement and have more views. But it is vitally important, and what's really important for us is that we are ultimately everywhere our fans are, everywhere that wants to engage with our content. There is a trial and error that we get from social content that you can't afford that luxury when you're producing a TV show or a streaming show, or actually any show. They're sort of one and the same. So for us, it's actually the huge value that we get from social in particular is you get a granular, ingrained understanding of who that audience is, as deep as you can, and as deeply as that platform will allow you to offer. And in doing that, you can sort of make an understanding of who that individual is, and then how can you create an audience around them. There is a lot around social buzz. There's a lot around, and how do you adapt to that? And we've got a bit of an example for that, which is there was a huge social buzz around Pimp My Ride, the famous exhibit show. And on Twitter, when it was still Twitter, not X, there was a lot of narrative around bringing that back. So we actually worked with eBay and Mediacom and brought back Pimp My Ride as a social-only series. We premiered 50-minute episodes, 6 of which on YouTube, created a snap show, created on Facebook, created on Instagram. But understanding who all those individuals were was really important for us, because then we could gauge that person was specifically watching that level of, that time length of that content on that particular platform. So for us, it's hugely important generally.
That's brilliant, thank you. One thing that we do say is around the complexities of the media landscape, as Yellowstone likes to remind us, you can own the land, but you do not necessarily know how to navigate it, and you need to be able to have the tools to be able to navigate it. We know the media landscape today is fragmented, it's fast-moving, it's incredibly complicated, right? So when we talk about TV, and we have agreed on this, TV is less about being a format and more about it being about the big screen as well as about the experience. And then when we talk about TV, that also brings a question around the premium environment in it, right? But then we do have, at least at Comscore, our perspective is that premium equates to audience first as opposed to platform first. Audiences are the North Star. Wherever they are, then good content should follow, right? How are you reshaping those conversations with brands and the concept around what premium is, especially in such a convoluted video landscape? And what role does data play in that?
I think the one thing is that everyone's got premium content, because if you didn't have premium content, then there's nothing really to talk about. And what we are defining as premium is now changing. So what was generally classified as user-generated content on YouTube is actually now produced at a really high production standard, and they're creating stuff that is amazing. For us, it's a really interesting time for us, and actually we are piggybacking off the success of Paramount Plus now in its third year. We're the only SVOD platform that's seen growth Q1 this year. We have just recently rebranded Channel 5 back to 5. So it's gone from channel 5 to 5 to channel 5 back to 5. But what we have done is we've made it one platform. So we have seen that our audiences, from the data that we see, are engaging with our shows not only on the traditional linear channels, but also on our streaming channels. So adapting and evolving that has been a massive moment for us. And actually we're paying dividends from that. And not only is it the production, the programs that we're producing, what's really interesting for us is that how we distribute that content and that program. So traditionally, you put it on Channel 5, it will go on BVOD, you give it back to the production company, and then everyone sort of goes home happy. But what we have seen is that our shows have a longer life cycle. So we have, for example, on some of our 5 programs, have licensed that in affiliate partnership with Netflix. So that show attracts a new audience that wouldn't have seen the 5 content, but on Netflix. So by doing that and understanding who the audiences are and what those platforms bring, actually has a material benefit back to our, I suppose, owned and operated and our worlds that we like to work within. So the data component of it is so massively important, and it is understanding and deciphering it, which I think is the biggest challenge for us as salespeople, marketing people to how to get more money out of it, and content people to produce stuff that people will want to watch and click through to go and watch more of. So it is a hugely important moment that we're in at the moment, but there is a huge need to have a consolidated view, particularly how social is operating.
That's very interesting. And I know that we've spoken about YouTube and the big presence that you've got on YouTube. You have identified YouTube as serving 2 purposes. One of them is YouTube serve as a revenue driver for Paramount, and then the second very big purpose is that it serves as a marketing engine, right?
Yes, I think very quickly. So for us, we've seen huge amounts of value from YouTube, and it's nothing revelation to say that YouTube is becoming that lean back experience. Higher volumes of connected TV viewing is being viewed on YouTube. My son watches YouTube Shorts on the big screen, so that does a job as well for everybody, not necessarily me. So YouTube is becoming a very, really valuable platform for us. But what is really interesting is the levels of content and fandom around shows. I know we are talking and working into live sport, and that's really important for us as we evolve into that. But the narrative and the conversation around the commentary or the presentations, like the bits where, for example, Kate Abdo and the CBS Sports team are delivering amazing content, is actually more valuable than some of the games themselves. I support Everton, so I don't watch any football anywhere, but watching that content and how it's produced and how it's engaging an audience is massively important for us. And actually, a lot of that viewing is sitting on YouTube, and that, for us, is the next step of our, producing and uploading long format, like full programs on YouTube, which we're starting to do, but also trying to find the best moments that are going to attract a new audience.
If anyone here was at Cannes, you would have heard our CMO talk about something called the creative alchemy. We're going to take that and we're going to change that into the perfect alchemy for media. And YouTube is a really good example of that, because it takes all of the different screens and it unites audiences wherever they are. And in recognition of those needs, specifically YouTube in this example, what we have done at Comscore is we have taken different ingredients to be able to build that creative flow or that creative alchemy within YouTube. So giving yourselves the ability to create a local market strategy but still maintaining the global narrative, to be able to take a look at your total reach but then still be able to dig down into those different audience behaviors that different audiences are able to show. And then one thing that we also go a step further is, and I think we can see here on the next screen, we're going to be able to see some of the affinities, so being able to recognize audiences beyond just what they do when they are on YouTube. What else are they doing when they are out there, so that you can start recognizing the viewers. And then we start talking about beyond platform metrics, so what the likes of YouTube or TikTok would be able to provide. It's about providing the full viewership view. Okay, so one thing that's also talking about audiences through the lens of sports is we've seen some major shifts, and we know that Paramount have been quite invested in the world of sports this summer. So tell us a little bit more about the social buzz that was generated by the Beckham and Friends show.
Yes, the Beckham and Friends show was huge. I think, again, it was piggybacking off the success of the CBS Sports Paramount Plus show with Kate Abdo, Nika Richards, Thierry Henry and Jamie Carragher. And because of that, it was an overwhelming view of, once we've got that information, why don't we then actually create a series of its own that again lives on social. Obviously, David Beckham can get Tom Cruise, which just makes it a bit more of an engaging piece.
Right, and you've also got the partnership with DAZN, where we've been able to see a lot of activity as well.
And it's been, and again, where we're moving into, which is that world where simulcasting is becoming a lot more of a prominent piece. You had it with the Carabao Cup final with Liverpool against Newcastle, and then we had it with that we're doing with DAZN at the moment. But I think we're at time.
Okay, well, we're just going to give it one final minute just to take a look at how we started with fragmentation and how we put all of that together with connection through Comscore Total Digital. So let's take a look what happened when we collided digital and social for Paramount. And we're going to play. Amil, thank you so much
very
for
much,
joining
Lizzie.
us, and thank you everyone for joining us
It's really
today.
hot,
Enjoy the rest of your Mac Fest.
Thank you.